we're still in that post-COVID thing of actually seeing some people for the first time in real life, not just on a screen. My name's Andrew. I'm a part of the kind of team that helped to facilitate the Leeds Property Truth Commission, and it's fantastic to have you here. This is the fourth time that we've run a Property Truth Commission in Leeds, which is very exciting, always at the start. And there's actually, it's not just exciting, it's a little bit nerve-wracking. There's two groups of people in this room that are quite nervous. There are those who are going to be presenting for us this evening, and then there are those that have come to listen to that, and they're kind of thinking, what is going to happen? But we are really hoping that this evening will be meaningful for everybody in trying to understand a little bit more about how we work on the Commission, what you've signed up for, but also, most importantly, to begin to understand what the nature of poverty is like a little bit more within our city.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Vic, and it's such a pleasure to have you here. Can everybody hear me okay? Bit louder. Okay, sure. Thanks, Helen. So, yeah, it's great to have you here, and it's so lovely to meet so many of you in person, after meeting you online and over email, and those people who have come to support our community commissioners. Thank you also for coming and being here for them. So I'm Vic, and I'm a facilitator for Leeds Poverty Truth. And what's going to happen this evening is the majority of it is going to be a number of presentations by our community commissioners. And so we will kind of guide you through that. Usually, well, every meeting that we have, we always start with a check-in question. So this is kind of to help you land and kind of land in the space. So our check-in question for you, what we'd like you to do, is just to have a think about the unfair ground. If you got the chance to play any of our unfair games, was there anything that particularly struck you about any of them? Anything that sticks in your mind? Any frustrations that you had? And we'd like you to share this with somebody sitting next to you. Ideally, somebody who you've never spoken to before or never met before. So in twos or threes, if you could introduce yourself to each other and to talk a little bit about what it was, anything that particularly struck you about the unfair ground. Just a couple of minutes and then we'll be back. Thank you.
So people are going to share tonight some of their experiences, and it's really important that in some ways we keep those experiences confidential within this room. So if you do social media and all that kind of stuff, and then you feel free to tweet or whatever the word is now in the X world, be free to post about it. But please don't quote the person, as in say who the person is, if that could be the case. That would be very helpful. And was that all I had to say?
Yes.
Excellent, fantastic. When somebody walked in, I think it was Pip, walked in saying, wow, I've never been here before. It's a great venue, isn't it? And it's partly because a number of people from Leeds City College have been civic and business commissioners in the past on different Property Truth Commissions, and they said, would we like to use their facility? And we came here and thought, yes, we'd like to use their facility. So we thought it'd be good to hear a little bit from one of those people, who is Bill. Mm-hmm. So Bill, do you just want to say who you are and then just welcome us on behalf of the college?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Bill Jones, I'm the principal of Leeds City College, and I'm delighted to host you today. Really pleased that we can provide this venue for you, and I'm glad that some of you have noticed it and are reasonably impressed by it. It's one of our flagship campuses. The other one you might have seen by Quarry Hill, but this is the one where we have all the traditional further education things like digital, business, motor vehicle, hairdressing and beauty therapy, things like that. So we're really proud of this campus, but it's really important in terms of what it achieves for the city So we're all about social mobility, about giving people pathways and routes to improve their circumstances. You can do that through skills. So if you develop skills, you can move on to more different jobs, more secure jobs, and that's what really interested me in education in the first place. And I was really pleased and delighted and learnt a huge amount from being a commissioner like many of you today, probably before COVID now when we started, and we went through COVID, which made it a bit challenging, but we persevered and we went through it, and I got so much out of it personally. You know, I grew as a person, I learned things that I wasn't aware of, I was challenged, the networking was absolutely fantastic. I met some wonderful people that I'm still, you know, hugely in touch with and friends with to this day. And it really, from my perspective as a civic commissioner, really enabled me, who's new to Leeds, I'm not from Leeds, to build up a real network of like-minded, values-driven professionals and people that can really make decisions in the city. And that's what's been most powerful for me. So my own personal development is good and important, but what was far more beneficial and important for Leeds City College and for the Luminate Education Group was what we did as a result of me being on it, and Andrea Cowan's before me, who was our Director of Student Life and makes huge decisions about multi-million-pound budgets which go to student support around things like meals, transport, kit and equipment for doing courses. So and we've now got Stuart Jolly as well as our Chief Financial Officer, who can make even more large decisions about how we spend our money. And it is really important how we spend our money. And we as a result of me being on this course, we changed a huge amount of things about the college and the way we operate. We have values, we have strategic priorities, and we actually changed a strategic priority we had around social mobility and creating jobs and things like that to include reducing poverty as a clear strategic intent and aim that we wanted to communicate to the city and the region. So that was the start, really. We then reviewed all sorts of our policies, procedures through that lens. So every decision that the college makes, we look at the impact on those from lower socioeconomic groups or those that have barriers to accessing our courses that are based on affordability, money, finance. We reviewed all of the support mechanisms that we have, things like money for travel, money for food, money for kit and equipment, and we tried to make it fairer, we tried to maximise it, we tried to spread it out as widely as we could so that we were ensuring that as many people as possible throughout the city were benefiting from the courses that we have and those life-changing opportunities that accessing one of our courses can often lead to. And we also started measuring what we do differently. So we have to measure things like protected characteristics. So people from certain backgrounds, you have to measure by law, but you don't have to measure the impact of what you do and the outcomes that you produce in terms of how many students from particular backgrounds pass courses, access your courses, progress from your courses to higher education or good jobs or apprenticeships. So we did start measuring the impact and the success rates and the outcomes based on socioeconomic background, and that was a direct result as well of me being on this programme. So, and then thirdly, with other people, probably fourthly actually, with other people that were on the course with me, we're part of what's known as the Leeds Anchors Network. So it's the university, the college, Leeds Teaching Hospitals Trust, large public sector employers, the local authority. And we meet together as the anchor network, inclusive anchors, and we can make decisions which then, if you put together the combined spending power of those institutions, it runs into the billions actually. And we can procure things locally, and we can put rules into around things that our HR practices, our recruitment practices, our spending practices that ensure that local people are employed where possible, that spending is done locally so that it enriches and benefits the region and the city. So for me, it was wonderful on a personal level. I really enjoyed it, although at times it was very challenging. Fantastic from an organisational perspective, and wonderful for the city. So I can't commend it or recommend it highly enough, and I hope you get as much out of it as I did.
Thank you. Excellent. Thanks, Bill, for that, and thanks for the use of your facility.
Oh, yes.
I guess one of the things that will be important tonight is to recognise that this is not the first time we've been doing Poverty Truth within the city. And I guess part of the reason why we do it stays the same. Simply this, that actually no lasting social change ever happens without those who face injustice involved in finding the solutions. That will be the only way that lasting social change can happen. And what we found over the last 3 commissions and now into our 4th is that actually providing a space where the right mix of people can be together means that we understand the issues better and then begin to imagine together what a different city might look like. And so, as you probably are all aware of, there are 2 groups of people in every Poverty Truth Commission. There are what we call our community commissioners, those who know the experience of struggling against poverty. They're not people in poverty, they're not poor people, they're people that know the struggle against poverty, because they're way more than just people who are defined by that. And then the second group of people are our civic and business commissioners who joined us tonight. They are people who have responsibility for institutions, organisations, and different roles within the city, that actually if we could work together, we could start to see things happen that were even more wonderful than have already happened before.
So our community commissioners have been meeting together for the last 9 months. So this has been a process, a very careful process of people thinking about what story they want to share with each other, first of all, and what they're prepared to share with each other. It's been a journey of building trust amongst them and creating a safe space for people to be able to share openly. So we've been meeting for 9 months every other week, and they have been also working out what it is that they want to share, not just with each other, but also with the city as well, and with our civic and business commissioners. So the wisdom that they've found from each other as well as themselves, they are going to be sharing that with you this evening. So yeah, I think that's it.
I think one last thing to say would be, no decisions are going to be made tonight. There's no pressure on anybody here to rewrite policy this particular evening. Everybody who said that they want to be civic and business commissioners have already decided what they're going to do, and that's actually spend the next 15 months meeting with our community commissioners, building relationships, grappling with the issues, and then beginning to explore what some of the possibilities might be. That's the decision is already being made by walking into the room. So please, we don't really want you to kind of think, oh, I've got to come up with that golden bullet tonight. That's not necessary. What we would like to hear, though, from all of the civic and business commissioners at the end of the evening is to hear what your hopes are for this particular process. We've heard a little bit from Bill about his experiences, but what are some of the things that you're hopeful these next few months might bring into being and through that experience? So hopefully all of you will who are civic and business commissioners have got a little road sign that we'll explain a little bit about as we get further through the night.
So the evening is going to be, the presentations are going to be divided into 3 sections. throughout the evening. Underneath your chairs, you will find a bit of a pro forma. If you can have a look, see if there is one there. And it looks like this. So you'll see, has anybody not got one and needs one? All right, good. So you'll see there are 3 sections on there. This really is just a reflection sheet for you. If you don't have a pen, we have pens somewhere. So please ask if you need a pen. These are the 3 sections that the presentation will be divided into, and the headings are of a particular game from the unfair ground. So Rachel over here will guide you through that so that you know which kind of section that we're on to. But at the end of each section there will be a bit of a moment of reflection where what we particularly want you to do is to be observant of yourself and how anything from that section made you feel, anything you observed in yourself. We want you to make a note of that in the section that it's for. So there'll be a moment of reflection at the end of each one. Okay. I'm now going to pass you over to Rachel. So, welcome.
So you've hopefully had a chance to play games in our room fair. Oh, sorry. I was holding it last time. You'll hopefully have had a chance to play the games in our room fair before we started this evening. And you'll probably recognise the metaphors some of the games convey about the experience of struggling against poverty. So the first section is seeing the whole. Sometimes experiencing the struggle against poverty feels like grappling in the dark without knowing what you're looking for. It's impossible to navigate systems when you don't even know what or who is there to help you. When no one is giving you the information you need, when signposting isn't there, you don't know where to go or what to do next. Seeing the whole picture enables better decision making and can save money, time and lives.
You are number 13 in the queue. Your call is important to us. Please hold the line and we will be with you shortly.
Why? Why am I stuck in a queue? Why does it seem no one is listening to me? Why don't they listen when I know something is wrong? Why don't they listen when I can feel the pain and I know the history? Why don't they listen and check when I think I know what it is?
You are number 13 in the queue. Your call is important to us. Please hold the line and we will be with you shortly.
Why don't they listen when I can see there is a problem? Why do I always have to do this over the phone? Why, when it is about the house, don't they send someone out? Why can I not see people who I need to? Why do they not believe me?
You are number 13 in the queue. Your call is important to us. Please hold the line and we will be with you shortly.
Why am I not taken seriously? Why do I not get told what help and support I am eligible for? Why don't they listen? I'm sure if they listened now, they'd save money in the future. I'm sure if they listened to me, they could improve their services. I'm sure if they listened, it could save lives.
I'm sorry, there is no one to take your call at the moment. Please call back later.
Hi. Technology. Oh, hi, I'm Debbie. Can you hear me? Yeah?
Speak up a bit, Debbie.
I'll try. I've usually got a big mouth, haven't I? Gone in on myself today. Hi, I'm Debbie. I'm here to speak about my son, Kobe. At the age of 5, my son developed epilepsy. It was scary at first, but eventually we found the right meds, and even though he was having a few seizures a day, it was manageable, as they only happened while he was sleeping and they just lasted a few seconds. I started to notice something wasn't quite right when Kobe was around 11. I'd just done a teaching assistant course and went on to do the extra element on teaching children with disabilities. I did my dissertation on autism, and this is when I realised that Kobe was ticking a lot of the boxes. I mentioned it at school, but it was quickly dismissed, and I took their word for it, because they know better, right? A couple of years passed, and at 13, he didn't seem to be progressing, so I raised it again. And again it was dismissed, saying it was hormones. At this point, I had to constantly remind him to take his meds. He would often say he'd taken them when he hadn't, and this resulted in trips to the hospital. When Kobe was 15, after a change of school, but still no change in his progress, I finally got him referred to Leeds Autistic Diagnostic Services. But it seemed like a very basic assessment, and Kobe was great at masking. They showed him a few facial expressions and gave him a scenario about a dog getting run over and asked him how he thought it would make the owner feel. But Kobe wasn't stupid. He knew the right answer for the assessment, but that didn't mean that he recognised body language or facial expressions on the street. The results were that he didn't have autism. But I knew there was more to it, but what could I do? Kobe left school without being entered for any exams and tried one college course after another and lost interest quickly. At 17, lads agreed to do another assessment, but Kobe would stay out and miss appointments. Eventually, I got him to do 2 out of the 3 assessments needed for a diagnosis. But at this point, he turned 18, and I couldn't make him go or even request any more assessments, even though the assessor agreed that he was probably on the spectrum. Of course, at 18, he signed on, and the vultures came out. They borrowed money and never returned it, stole his things, even his bus pass. I encouraged him to spend all his money in a matter of days, then they would vanish until his next payday. In between all this, Kobe would stay out for days at a time and miss his meds and end up in hospital. He'd been on ICU, intensive care unit, too many times to count, and in a coma twice. I would beg the hospital to have staff to keep him in or get psychiatrists involved, as I saw that this was self-harm, but they disagreed. I eventually found somewhere for him to stay that had 24-hour staffs, as I couldn't control his, he could no longer stay with me due to his outbursts. The staff were great, but they could only remind him to take his meds, but couldn't hold them for him, so he would often lose them. I visited him often to take him fresh clothes, food and his meds. The last time I went to visit him was on the 26th of March 2022, but it was too late. His autopsy report stated that SUDEP was the cause. Sudden, unexpected death by epilepsy. There were no epilepsy meds in his system. My question is, why could the vultures see Kobe's vulnerability within seconds, but the specialists couldn't? They ignored me for over 12 years. Now I want them to listen.
Thank you so much, Debbie, for sharing that with everyone. We're now going to hear from Jason's story.
I'm Jason and I'm a full-time carer. I look after my girlfriend who is registered blind, and I'd feel that carer's allowance is not really paying enough, because at the end of the month you're left with nothing for yourself. So I'm with a group called Poverty Truth, trying to change the way the government look at how the payers. Because if you worked in a residential or a nursing home, you would be on the minimum wage, but carers are on 45 pence an hour. Poverty Truth are trying to get themselves, get noticed and see if we can change the way the government treat people in the country. It gives me a good voice and they understand where I'm coming from, because if it weren't for us home and living carers, the government and the NHS would be on breaking point. We're taking a lot of strain off of the NHS by looking after people, even if it's a loved one or a relative. You can't go out and work because you have to be there all the time with the condition, with all the different conditions people have, and you don't really get time out. I do a couple of walks. I like riding bikes, fixing them, but at the end of the day I can't go out and make a living and make a wage like everyone else because of the circumstances of the care. If you go walking, it helps your mental health, and you get some good fresh air and you meet people. I used to fix bikes, but that got shut down, so now I'm not really doing anything active. I'm doing more caring because of the change of my partner's circumstances. Give us a fair wage, like all the rest. Doctors, bus drivers, train drivers, Royal Mail, they've all gone on strike for better wages and they got it. And the carers, no one's standing behind us and fighting what's right for the carers. I would go and get a job, but like I says, I would have to pay someone the minimum wage to come and look after Helen, and I can't do that.
Thanks, Jason, for helping us see the full picture. The first film was Helen, who was involved in that were all her questions, why, and it was her voice that you heard. We'd like you to take the form just for a moment. And just maybe in that first box about seeing the whole, maybe just jot down some thoughts. What struck you? What's gripped you? What's provoked you, maybe? I'm sure you want to join me in thanking Helen, thanking Jason, and thanking Debbie. Why don't we just give them a round of applause for sharing? We're going to think about the wheel of unwell-being, easy for me to say, in a moment. And one of the first things that you're going to experience is just Mary talking on almost like a radio program. One of the things that we recognise in Poverty Truth that is crucial to it is the ability to listen to one another. And that listening goes in all directions. It goes in every way so that we can all really begin to understand more deeply what is going on. And so I'd encourage you as that plays, maybe to close your eyes and to listen intently to some of the words and some of the phrases and some of the stories that Mary is sharing with us.
Our physical and mental health has a massive impact on our experience of poverty. Just too sharp, I'll start again. Our physical and mental health has a massive impact on our experience of poverty, and our experience of poverty has a massive impact on our physical and mental health. When you're struggling day in, day out, coping with additional challenges becomes increasingly difficult. Every day feels like spinning this wheel, knowing the chances of achieving well-being are slim and that the odds are firmly stacked against you.
Good afternoon, my name is Mary. Today I would like to talk about postnatal depression, which is suffered by a woman after childbirth. I have experience working with a woman who suffer from this. There are many problems in the health sector with refugees suffer from PND. Many times the health professional misunderstand the situation of the patient and lead to misdiagnosis. Misdiagnosis happens when the health professional get the incorrect information and give the patient the wrong medication. This causes confusion, anger, and mistrust between the professional and women refugees. Most refugees deny their diagnosis because of cultural stigma, their unfamiliar environment, and language barrier. From that, they are given a negative and traumatic image of the health sector. Refugees are forced to be away from their support network. They suffer in cultural segregation and loneliness. All of this can cause a woman distress and often insecurity. There is a patient I would like to talk about. She fled her country at a young age and claiming asylum seeker in the UK. The Home Office rejected her application as an asylum seeker. Because of this, she suffered mental illness in her own, with nobody to supporting her. After childbirth, she developed also PND. The health professional misunderstood her illness as her attitude, and her trying to get to the state remain in UK. This was not the case. She really needed support. Her children were taken away from her by social services and put them in their care without her permission. This is the worst thing she can do to any mother. Her mental state was truly getting worse, with nobody to support her. She became homeless, with no money, no house, and no support network. She fought for her children to take them back into her care. The system ignoring her as their own mom. I always feel guilty and heartbreaking that she didn't get any support from anyone. At the end, she ended up committing suicide, died. For the big picture, we all need to ask ourselves how we can help these refugees, moms who are suffering from postnatal depression. More education and training is needed for the professionals to prevent issues such as misdiagnosis from happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary, for sharing your story with us. I'm going to now introduce you to Leona. And she's going to, first of all, share with us a clip from Look North, which she features in, and then we will have a chat about it.
I don't really want you to see this, but it's necessary. Coming off an addiction to drugs or alcohol is incredibly difficult, but staying off can be even tougher.
The charity Forward Leeds supports those overcoming substance misuse, and one of the ways they're helping with recovery is through activities such as gardening. People using the service have found it healing for their mental health and in some cases life-saving. Lakshmi Gopal reports.
Gardening can often be a therapeutic hobby, but at this allotment it's a key part of overcoming addiction.
It helps me in a lot of ways, you know. I suffer from a lot of depression. You know, it gets me outdoors, meet new people. We've got a good group here, good group of lads and lasses.
Andy has spent the past 10 years battling with alcoholism.
It was bad, really bad. I lost all my friends, family, you know, I was getting arrested all the time, fighting, carrying on. It was just a nightmare, you know, people couldn't cope with me. My lowest point was to commit suicide, just end it all, you know, and that's how it got me. I was that low, I couldn't have gone any lower.
But then he got support from the charity Forward Leeds, and as part of their recovery programme, he comes here every week. For Andy and his fellow allotment enthusiasts, there's something about the gardening project that helps them stay on track.
Seeing things grow, nurturing things, the camaraderie, being out in the open air and not indoors and not isolated, it is absolutely vital, in my opinion, to people's mental health.
Leona spiralled into alcohol addiction after the death of her father.
I wasn't living, I was just existing. I was in the most horrendous place that I've never ever been in my life before and didn't know how to handle it at all.
A regular at the allotment, Leona first came to Forward Leeds 3 years ago to tackle her substance misuse. Gardening is just one of many activities, including art and yoga, offered by the charity's recovery centre 5 Ways. More than mere hobbies, they play a big role in life after addiction.
Once they've stopped using drugs and alcohol, people often find the hardest thing to do is sustaining that recovery. So 5 Ways provides a safe and supportive environment where people can come every day on an evening, meet like-minded people and get support from staff and peers alike.
Carla, thank you very much, Carla.
It's that support that Leona credits with not only beating her addiction, but also saving her life.
Well, if it weren't for this, I wouldn't be well. I wouldn't have got well, and I doubt very much if I would still be here. Unfortunately, it's not a nice thing to say, but it was very bleak, and now it's fantastic.
Lakshmi Gopal, BBC Look North, Leeds.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Leona. I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit how that made you feel watching that clip.
Horrendous. I feel deeply ashamed that I ended up in addiction. Having mental health problems and being hospitalised lots of times, I was never ever ashamed of. That was not my fault. It didn't, but addiction has got such a stigma to it, and that was just awful. And I'm so glad you're here, Andy. Yeah. So yeah.
Thank you. Would you like to share with us a little bit about your situation before this and when you first started accessing support and help?
Oh gosh, how far do you want me to go back? I've had mental health problems from childhood, but obviously I was born and brought up a long time ago, and attitudes were very, very different then. You know, you couldn't be mentally ill, you couldn't be this, you couldn't be that, you couldn't be other, and you were labelled a misfit, and that was the best word for me, apparently. So everybody used misfit. And I wasn't bothered at the time. I lived up to it. I didn't know what was happening, what was up with me. I just knew I wasn't like everybody else. And it wasn't until I was in my late 20s that I I had a wonderful GP, and I went to see him, and he knew straight away what was wrong with me, and he referred me to mental health services. And I must say, going back 30 years, for all they were fighting for every penny they needed, I can't complain at the way I got looked after all them years ago. There were day hospitals, there were day centres, there were lots of support, but you had to be able to access the mental health service, which got more difficult and more difficult. But I were already there, so it was, crikey Moses, this is emotional. Yes, I can't complain. My guru, Sister Ellen Moore, God bless you, Ellen, she taught me such a lot about mental health. I was in and out. I went on the same ward with the same staff, and I was in a long time at a time, 15 weeks. That was like average time that I every time I was admitted that I stayed there. I could never wait to get back home to my kids. But even my kids, man, they were marvellous to them. You know, they could eat on board with you and visit you any time, and you know, there was a gym downstairs, and they used to try and drag me down there. No, please. Yeah, it was brilliant, and slowly, but there is nothing now. Nothing. There's no day hospitals. There's no day centres. There's no CPNs. I had a CPN for a long time. I had, and other people besides me, we had access to mental health when we weren't well. We only used it when we weren't well. And now there's absolutely nothing. And at the moment, I'm really struggling myself. But luckily, I'm falling back into addiction for 8 years. So, because you could easily, when you're not well, easily.
So, what do you feel is lacking now compared to the past?
Well, everything. No day centres, no day hospitals, no wards, unless you happen to be a certain type of psychotic or schizophrenic, and you're a danger to the public. You might then, but you might not get in. Yeah.
So there's an importance in the charity organisations and community organisations that you have accessed.
Oh gosh, yeah. Because that's all we've got. That's all we've got, and they do as much as they possibly can for everybody. They come across every charity I've been fortunate enough to be involved with, and everything looked good, love me. The government are cutting their funding money constantly. I mean, what do you want people to do? I know it's no good asking you guys because you're not the government, but I didn't mean that disrespectfully, by the way. But yeah. I get really emotional, and when I get emotional, I can't articulate myself like I can sometimes.
Leona, you've done really well and spoken really well. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Excellent, thanks Leona, thanks Vic. Thanks Andy, who sat over there. Great to see you this evening, mate. One of the wonderful things about a commission is that it's made up of brilliant people. People actually are brilliant. We spend most of our time thinking they're rubbish or, you know, it's their fault or whatever. But actually people essentially are brilliant. And the purpose of a commission is really for everybody's brilliance to shine together and to work together. And one of the things that is kind of always in the mix tends to be creativity around the place. And we're going to ask you to stand in a minute and to move over to our, it's probably over-egging it to say it's our art gallery area, but still there are some pieces of art that Geraldine, who is sat over there, standing over there as painted in order to help you understand something of her story. And once you're over there, we'll put on a soundtrack that will hopefully help you to make sense of some of the things that you see. So please stand and go around the corner into our art gallery. We should have Tony Hart's music on there, shouldn't we? Something like that. For a certain.
My name is Geraldine and I live in Gibton. I met my partner Barouche in 2010 at the bus stop waiting for the 50 bus, and I was engaged in 2019. Barouche suffers with PTSD during the 5 years in the army in Iran, and so I started caring for him in 2017. That's when my partnership with him started to change from being his partner to being his carer. I have done various mental health and wellbeing courses so I can understand him more to make things easier for me to look after him. But it can be very hard understanding his mental health situations. He also suffers with a heart murmur and suffers from a curvature of the spine, particularly in the winter, and takes medication for that as well as morphine. I qualified as an aromatherapist in 2018 so I can regularly give him back massages. There are many symptoms to Barouche's PTSD. Some of them include nightmares, OCD, paranoia, distrust and morphine addiction. He has always been fast-minded and he's seen so much nasty things that he deeply rebels. It doesn't matter where we are at the time. Sometimes we'll set him off. Before I met him, he was self-harming and his arms are badly scarred. It seems he was doing this to replace pain from his spine and to stop the backflashes. I've taught him how to connect with nature through caring for plants and animals. I've tried to keep him learning to calm down through meditation and mindfulness. He thinks he's right all the time and can be blunt about it to people that are there for help. It seems if he calms down too much, he gets flashbacks again and he can go back into his depression as easy as 1, 2, 3. Then that lasts for weeks. Then I'm tiptoeing around him. Sometimes I feel that the lines are blurred between my role as a carer and the role as a fiancé. For example, when he lashes out, is it a patient lashing out or is it a form of domestic violence? My own health can affect the quality of my care for Barouche too. I suffer with lupus, which is an autoimmune disease which is directly aggressive by stress. I find myself having to constantly learn my symptoms and what I can be capable of. It's taken me 13 years to fully understand Barouche, and it's still ongoing. I found it really hard with my health deteriorating. Why haven't we been taught something to help us understand our clients and what they're going through? We love each other and would like to be married and live together one day, but I feel I need more support and education to be able to understand him better for now and in the future. As a carer and a partner, I like to do my job well and sufficiently, as I am in for the long haul.
I'm a victim of torture. I sought asylum here in the UK. I came as a student with an aspiration to become a qualified nurse. Migration would broaden my horizon and help me meet new people. I came with big ideas and big ambition.
I came to the UK from South Africa in 2002 to escape a horrible ordeal I'd been through that made me live in fear in my country. I did not feel protected there. I was in an abusive relationship, and trying to escape that, my home was broken into, and I was physically and sexually, to put it subtly, attacked by some stranger. I thought, that's it. My family won't see me again. It's a fear I don't wish upon my worst enemy. And it's a fear I occasionally relive, but at the same time, a fear I'm trying hard to forget. I had to fight for my life, basically. It affected me quite badly. I couldn't walk or talk properly for weeks thereafter. It affected my work, my social life, and it had a great impact on my family, especially my mum. I lived in fear wherever I found myself. Socially and outside, I was always vigilant on the lookout, just in case. You can't imagine how hard it was for me to come to some sort of normality again. I had a sister in the UK, and she invited me over to get some sort of respite. At the time, it was easy to come here and not as strict and hostile like it is now. I was given a 6 months visitor's visa.
After working abroad for 32 years, my wife and I made the decision to return home, considering the UK as our home. I arrived here with hope, energy, and extensive experience working with a leading global organization, and wanted to use that experience here.
I arrived in the UK in 2011. It was a family reunion to join my husband. However, I lived for a few years fearful because of the domestic abuse in our relationship. I was scared if I left him, I might not have the right to stay in the UK. It's hard to think about the consequences of that when you have children.
I had no close family in the UK, and so I was constantly meeting total strangers. I had to forge new relationships quickly. Culturally, it was a shock. The cost of living was much higher. I experienced loneliness. I felt disorientation. I lived in fear because I had limited permission to be here. It's like you would constantly feel if you thought you were going to be evicted from your house. Every day I feel like that.
Because of my visa, I was free to be in the UK. I felt lucky my sister was here. I had a place to stay. After the visa expired, I decided to stay on and applied for a student visa, and I was allowed to work 20 hours per week.
I thought I came here with everything I needed, saving to cover the costs and the correct visa. The recruitment system kept throwing my CV out because I hadn't been living in the UK long enough, and my work experience wasn't in the UK. My wife has same issue as mine. She used to run a school as a manager, and her experience wasn't accepted in the UK, so she had to accept a low-paid job in a school.
Finally, I managed in 2016 to leave and started my biggest challenge yet, looking after 6 children on my own. All that time I couldn't speak English well. Not understanding the system was a huge problem. I was in fear of social services as I didn't understand the rules or the rights that you have. It was like living in a beautiful bottle, but you can't breathe because if you did, it would break. We were living in a house that was in a bad condition. My daughter developed a health problem and she lived on antibiotics because of the state of the house. I was a single mum with no one to complain to or share what I was going through.
I knew I had to seek permission to be here. However, I was only given short stays with limited opportunities to enrich my life. I couldn't settle down and start a family. There was no right to work or recourse for public funds. As an immigrant, I was in a vicious cycle of poverty. My ambition was gone, and I was losing the will to live. Life had no meaning. My belief in human coexistence was destroyed.
In 2003 to 2004, I attended college and was working. It was difficult having to pay college fees in excess of over £1,000 per year and all the living expenses for the following year with only 20 hours work per week. So I dropped out of college. That meant I had no legal status in this country. I needed to continue working to basically survive. In 2005-2006, I fell pregnant. My son's dad made it very clear he wanted no part of it, and I was alone, but felt so complete at the thought of becoming a mum, as I never thought I would at my age. This was a blessing from God. However, I couldn't continue working or providing for myself then, and it became daunting that I now have a baby to take care of as well. How was I going to do this? By the grace of God. My faith has given me the courage and the strength to just keep going in these difficult times. I had made really good friends along the way, and they were my biggest support network.
Unfortunately, in 2020, the schools closed due to COVID lockdown, and my wife had to get a job as a carer with a 0-hour contract. I was still looking for jobs, but getting something during the lockdown was hard, and our savings gradually ran down. In July 2020, I applied for the visa extension under the 5 years route. The difficulties we faced during the pandemic impacted the ability to meet the financial requirement, and the decision from the Home Office was to switch the visa from 5 years route to 10 years route. I got married in 1985, and back then there were no financial requirements needed for the spouse visa. And obtaining British citizen used to take just 1 year. But seeking citizenship wasn't the aim of my marriage, and I had no plan to stay in the UK. Therefore, we left the country 9 months after we got married to begin my journey and start my first job abroad.
Me and my children managed to get a council house. I also began to understand how to make things a bit better. I started to look for work, but it was hard with kids, especially when you don't have a wide family to support you and look after them. However, I started working as an interpreter and began to build a network of people around us. Working as an interpreter can feel like living out everybody else's story or struggle every day. You experience everybody's pain, people with no status in this country. I've seen and I'm still seeing people trapped in hostels, people stuck in the asylum process and really struggling mentally, financially and physically.
I continued to hope that I might settle down. No family of my own, because the impact from all that has happened remains. I have no right to work. I have no status, nothing of value or assets.
Things didn't get any easier for me after my son was born. I've had many trips to the hospital because of all the anxiety, the fear of being caught and deported, looking over my shoulder all the time. I was so afraid to become poorly, to go to GPs and dentists. I fear enrolling my son in school or activities just in case I'm asked to produce documents which I didn't have. I had to constantly move house in order to not get found should authorities discover my illegal status. Many of the houses I have lived in were in dire state of repair. Rat infested, holes in ceilings, just inhabitable. I had no money of my own. The money I had was from friends through church and financially support from so many people. This left me feeling so embarrassed.
We are now getting into a better place. My wife has a good job. We are building up our savings and our financial situation seems more secure. My sons have received their education in the UK and are currently working. I still must wait for 5 years before being eligible to apply for UK citizenship. I feel like I am in a prison. I cannot travel. I feel like I'm being punished. And unfortunately, I am not even allowed to appeal the decision or receive any support.
Some decisions make life worse for us. My eldest child had been at high school in Meanwood for a number of years. I applied for the twins to go, but they were sent one to Morley and the other to Headingley. My youngest children were still at school in Beeston. I decided to appeal the decision because I wanted them to be together. I can't tell you how painful it was when the judge refused the appeal. I cried, and I don't like crying in front of people. Financially, they don't understand. How can I afford to send them to school? Different uniforms and bus fares. And what happens if more than one of them need me at their school because there is a problem? There is so much more I can tell you. I don't get support from the children's father. I try to do the right thing. I prioritise my bills, but sometimes you can't keep up with it. I hope that I can just keep going somehow.
My name is Victor, and I believe I'm a victim of subjective hostile environment induced by the Home Office. Me personally, that's how I feel. Thanks to Leeds Poverty Commission, Truth Commission, my story isn't a typical one. I have had that before. Anymore. The reality of dragging up a 17-year-old life on hold, waiting for decisions that never come. Constant uncertainty. The pain you go through, the anguish, the resentment. The list is endless. As a consequence, I am left feeling inadequate in this presence. A feeling I'm powerless to control. I believe personally my poverty is induced. Because I am a capable person as I am standing before you.
We don't need to change the world in one go. And then I've also written something on how I feel about the Home Office, and maybe I speak for so many others, but this is just how I feel. For thousands of people who end up on the wrong side of the Home Office each year, there is often a sudden moment of disbelief. People tell themselves, this can't be happening, or they can't do this, can they? I think I'll answer that. Yes, they can, and they will do everything in their power to continually treat us inhumanely and make our lives difficult. Personally, I feel that I am being punished and judged becoming illegal due to circumstances that was not easy for me or circumstances beyond my control. They are so paranoid, hostile, unfair, inconsiderate, no compassion, and treating people, quite frankly, cruelly. As a single mother, and a biased one at that, I have a British-born child, an A star, an A pupil in college. I feel exploited with the crippling, extortionate, exorbitant amounts of fees I have to pay every 2.5 years. Then I face the fear of being rejected. I also feel deprived as the system does not provide much support for people like us, and therefore we are being made to feel restricted and limitations are inflicted upon us and makes us feel imprisoned. Even though I am allowed to now legally work, with the price of inflation, home office fee increases, bills, etc., like everyone else I expect, I am unable to save up money in order to pay for my visa renewal due May this year. I am already indebted to so many people who has helped me pay for previous visa renewals. So, constantly in debt, already struggling financially. This is just one vicious circle. It's like going one step forward and more than 1 trillion steps backwards. And I've just written a quote just for a bit of encouragement for myself, and it's from Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future.
Hi. My case is a unique case. I've been married for over 38 years. I worked outside the UK to support my family. Yeah, okay. After all these years, it's time to relax and return back with my family.
This microphone don't like me, just so you know. Hi, it's me again. I just want to say that I hope that we are all of us, not just heard, but listened to, and that we can leave with some kind of hope and satisfaction that the wheels are in motion for change, and not just for ourselves, but for families in the future that may experience similar hardship.
Hi, my name is Victor, and I believe you've already had my truth.
Yes, hi. Actually, I'm not here only for myself. From many people, they have similar cases like mine, and they have nowhere to go because everything is, they say, it's on the website. I studied the website many times. I went through it all. There is nothing about unique cases. It's only just standard cases. It's different than the refugees or the asylum seekers. They come here. It's all standard, you know. You come here, you accept it. Okay, 5 years, you get the approval, and that's it. For spouse visas, it's something absolutely different. I hope that there will be a study from this. Thank you.
I really don't know what to say. I don't know what I'm supposed to be saying. So I'll just say thank you for listening, all of you. It's very harrowing and it's not pleasant. So thank you.
I'm saying fairer wages for the home living carers.
Hi, my name's Helen. I want to make a change for women so that they're listened to by the NHS. I was diagnosed with fibroids and I've got stage 3 cancer because they wrongly diagnosed me, and I'd like the NHS to listen to women more often.
My name's Geraldine, and the power's in your hands, and I'd like you to take action and not broken promises.
I've read mine already, but I'll say it again because I just don't want the change to be for us, for people like us for the future. So small actions can make a huge difference. We don't need to change the world in one go.
My name is Mary. Today I need to talk about women refugees and to be listened in this country, especially one of you maybe working from NHS. and misdiagnosis to be eliminated in the health sector, and more training, education, and understanding from health professionals.
My hope is for change. I think I can speak for all of us that our experiences were traumatic and exhausting, and we just want it to be better.
So thank you. Sorry.
I think a huge round of applause for this incredible group of people. I think we'd all want to say thank you, because actually what you've experienced, to put that into words or into film or into art so that we can reflect on it, is really important. Poverty in some ways is a wound. It wounds those who've experienced it, and it wounds all of us who try to alleviate it, because sometimes we think just can't quite get it right. And so I guess part of what we're trying to do today is almost look at those wounds together, recognizing that none of us have all the answers, but actually the hope comes as we learn to listen, and as we learn to reflect, and as we learn to think together. For those of you who have the privilege, I hope you're still thinking it's a privilege, of being a Civic and Business Commissioner. We have given you a little road sign, a Leeds road sign with Poverty Truth on it. We wonder if you would just, on the back of it, write down your hope, and then I'm going to call you out in some kind of school children registration fashion, so that you can then come up and join, almost like a wedding picture. Come and join this group of people here, because in some ways this is not just about their stories, it's about our collective wisdom, and that wisdom coming together. And so actually, this is the moment, if you like, where it's not just about them, and it's not just about us, it's about all of us. There were a couple of Civic and Business Commissioners that weren't able to be there, be here tonight. A lady called Eileen, whose father is seriously ill, so she had to be with her father this evening. But she wrote a hope for us, and she put, hearing first-hand experience and stories is so powerful. I truly hope that by being a part of Leeds Poverty Truth Commission, I can develop a deeper understanding of the inequalities and struggles that people and communities face, and use that to make the work that Northern Gas Networks does carry more meaning and impact. And then Pip had to leave early because she had a prior engagement. She wrote this: "My hope is that this will strengthen my clarity and purpose around social justice, because I agree people are brilliant and stronger when they are together." Jim, would you like to join us?
Thanks, Andrew, and yeah, it is a privilege to be here. So my hope is that your stories are amplified in the places where they can be listened to and a difference can be made, and to hold on to the fact that the world is full of good people, and there is hope where hope is felt like it's lost.
Thanks, Jim. Steve? Yeah, round of applause would be great.
Thanks very much. This is truly a sort of a landmark occasion in my life, really. And hearing these stories, it's as we've said, it's difficult, but it's essential. And as a leader of an organisation in this city, we need to spread that learning. I've just written down what sort of my hope, my expectation of myself will be, and it's to. The message that I've taken from today has been that we need that integration and collective actions, that one part of the system is never enough, and it's always someone else's responsibility to do that. Well, no, because when we have a truly integrated system, then we will work together. And there is one other thing that has really struck a chord with me ever since I first heard it, when in fact it was Debbie when you mentioned it, about how come the vultures recognise something that the professionals didn't. And as a professional, as an A&E consultant, that really struck home. And there was a lot for us to learn about what are we missing as healthcare professionals, and where else do we need to go. So thank you so much for all of that and for everyone.
Thank you. It's been a really interesting evening. The breadth of the stories and the creativity and the strength that you've all shown in actually getting those messages across to us has been fantastic. I think in terms of hopes from my perspective, there's a practical aspect of actually learning about things that are wrong and that we can all work together to make better. But there's a few messages when you're making your points at the end there, where you were talking about actually it's not about changing absolutely everything or even just changing things for people at this fixed point in time. It's about how we collectively can make things better for the future. And you know, I think if we think about the organisations that we're here representing, that we work for, it's also about it's about how we change those organisations and just get them to act with a little bit more compassion and humility and recognition of trying to help people and you know, we've mentioned barriers a lot tonight, but it's actually kind of embedding that across the whole organisation, not that it's just like one or two individuals that are trying to achieve that.
You give me the longest walk.
Yeah, Liz is going to have to go
Thanks,
first.
Andrew. I'm Ruth. I'm quite overwhelmed, and I think my hope is both quite simple and quite complex. I mean, I think fundamentally what I wrote down is that over the next sort of year or so, I hope that I can hear, listen and see in the way that you need me to and that you deserve. And I think that's as an individual, and I think that in the context of my role, there is something really fundamental for me about that. I hope that I can be the change that means that we hear, listen and see in the way that you not only need and deserve, but in the way that affects the changes you need to see. I heard a lot of feeling unheard and feeling unseen, and a real disconnect between the fact that, you know, that Dan and the other people I know in this room who are on the Civic and Business Commissioner sort of collective, we do work really hard. There are whole teams of people trying to make things better. And there is a fundamental disconnect between that and what you see and what you experience. And I guess that for me is the bridge that I hope somehow I can get these experiences and these voices through me and direct from you into that. And I suppose the hope is that the system and us as part of that can listen, because in a lot of cases, had there been early intervention, had people been listened to, you wouldn't have experienced what you have. So I think that's the lesson I'll take away from tonight, is actually to believe people, to listen more, and I think somebody just mentioned around, you know, getting the organisations to care more, and sometimes that's really difficult when you're in the busy world, but actually just listening to people and acting on it earlier rather than later.
A leader in a large public sector organisation is really uncomfortable, if I'm honest. We talk about being a compassionate organisation, and yet I hear your stories and I feel like that compassion is all talk, and we need to make it more about actions. What I hope to gain through being involved in this next year or so is to learn through listening to you all and to keep hearing your stories. And what I will do in return is go into my organisation and I will look at how that can influence policy and practice. I am a good influencer. My area of work means that I practically work with every single part of my organisation and really look at how I can raise awareness and try to make things better and improve the way that we support people that are in situations similar to yours or others, but try to make life less of a struggle, really. So, it's me.
Dennis.
Let me start by saying that I'm absolutely privileged to be here tonight. And you must be profoundly proud of what you've achieved today and being part of this process. It's unbelievable what you have done to serve us with such a thought-provoking experience, even for somebody like me, who you probably would think that I have been through quite a few of the experiences that you've shared tonight. And it's been an emotional roller coaster for me listening to those stories, and some of them have been truly triggering. But when I walked in this evening, one thing I said to myself very intentionally is to shut the voices in my head and just listen. And I'm really glad I did that, because what I have heard today has been earth-shattering for my thinking, and I'm so blessed to have you tell me all that. Let me also say that poverty and injustice is not accidental. And people are not accidental. And what you've shared with us today just made me realize even more why this should be the system. The humanity that you've expressed today is very far removed from what we see as a system that creates the poverty and creates the injustice. And I really wish that the system reflects the humanity that you've all shared tonight with that very compassionate, real stories of how the system impacts our lives. And what that leaves me with in terms of my hopes, I really wish you were the guys running down the street. I really do.
So do I.
And many other organizations.
I had smart tonight.
But you've got the power in your truth. And my hope for this process is that you are the voices of the future that really begin to help us think, or people think, or organizations think, and how to respond to the challenges that you've raised tonight. And I really hope that somehow you move from sharing the stories here to a position where you can really influence change. That's my hope. And that's not just storytelling, it's impact making. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. So we were asked, how does this make you feel? And how have you made me feel? Embarrassed, uncomfortable, but at the same time I think you're incredibly brave to do what you've done. We do this quite a lot, it never gets easier, I was saying to the owner. However, I'm honoured that you told your story. You've all told them brilliantly in different ways. It's inspiring, and I will do whatever I can. I will listen, I will work with my colleagues to help make a difference. But thank you, this has been inspirational.
George, and then it'll be Sarah after that.
Hi everyone, and again, thank you so much for sharing everything tonight. I'm George. I was trying to think from a personal point of view. My hopes are, I've got family who are growing up in Leeds, and hearing what you said tonight has made me think about things. I never want to hear that anybody in Leeds feels that they grow up in a hostile environment. I think that was your words, you said, hostile environment. I never want to, I hope that no one says that they've had their belief destroyed. I hope that I never hear that anybody lives in fear or is embarrassed or feels like they're in a prison. So my hope is that Leeds is a place where nobody expresses any of those things that you felt and told us about tonight. So that's from my personal view about that. I hope that the word listen has been used by almost everybody that said tonight, and I think it was Debbie that said it at the beginning. You said, I don't want to be heard, I want to be listened to, and I think that's the difference, isn't it? We talked about amplifying those things, but it's important that that you're not just heard, that you're listened to, and things change because of people listening to that, and that's moving us from just listening to actually doing something about that. And as part of that, I'm going to actually disagree with a couple of people tonight. A couple of people said, well, it's just they said, we don't have to boil the ocean, we don't have to change the world. I think someone said, I'm going to say, I want to change the world. I want to change the world. I want to change the world. I don't want sometimes you have to evolve, but I want revolution. There has to be revolution. We cannot continue to do this. So my hope, and it's not, you don't all have to agree with it, it's for a bit of revolution.
Finally, Sarah.
I'll just add my thanks, and I think like others have said, I feel quite overwhelmed, I feel quite emotional of just trying to hold on to every individual story and every individual experience. And so I hope that I can show and demonstrate the same courage, openness and determination as you've all shown. The consistent message you all shared was, I'm not here for me, I'm here for other people. I'm here whether it's for my children, whether it's for people in my own community, people I know that are struggling, like I've been struggling, not to have those same struggles. And I hope genuinely to learn by listening and working with you to make meaningful change. As others have said, I could list hundreds of initiatives that are going on to address challenges within Leeds, but are they the right ones? And that's the whole point of the Commission. We can sit in our offices and in our roles thinking we're changing the world, but we're not. The world changes by giving people that have got the lived experience, that are living these lives day to day, the power to be able to make those changes. So thank you.